Foster. What's up?
I'm shocked.
Hey, that's awesome. I heard you've been reading my books, doing book reports on my books. That's awesome. Thanks for doing that. That's cool.
So, do you want to get into the questions now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All
Yeah, what
right.
do you got?
Where are you originally from?
So I am from Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in Cleveland, and I live in the Cleveland area right now. So I live in Strongsville, Ohio, which is about 15 minutes from where I grew up.
So as an author, well, in what ways do you feel you are special among other writers in your genres?
Yeah, so some ways that I might be different from other authors. So I think I probably wouldn't use the word special because I think that everybody, that everybody has different strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. For me, I think I think maybe what you're talking about is your voice, right? Like the way that the writer's voice is a way that your thoughts come together and come out on the page. And so I guess I would describe my voice as some things that I try to do is like everything I write, I do it through the filter of like what would be my favorite thing to read when I was 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range. And so some things that I do may be different from other writers because of that. I keep my chapters short. So I like, for me reading growing up, like I really like chapters that I really liked reading and having that accomplishment of finishing a chapter. And so those are some things that I try to do. I always try to put a lot of humor in my books. That's something that comes naturally to me. It's as I'm writing, like that kind of stuff just comes naturally. I try to keep things really short and moving quickly. So I don't have a lot of description in my books. I figure there's some pictures in there so you can see what the pictures look like. You have your imagination so you can figure it out. With a lot of dialogue and like sound effects and things like that. So I would say those are some things that if you're reading a book, and you're reading one of my books, you could probably tell that it's one of my books because of those couple things.
Yeah, that was really fun to read when I saw the pictures, and then it had me guess for a few it made me guess for a few pages. I got to see what I was actually thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and for me, like when I was growing up, like I would always just I would see a big chunk of a description of a place, and I would just skip it, or I would just kind of skim through it because I had the picture in my head, anyways, of what I felt like it looked like, So I do try to put some description in there. When I do, I try to keep it short and put something interesting in there or funny or something like that makes you, kind of connects to it. So.
Why do you feel young readers are attracted to your books?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, one, they're about things that young readers like. So I grew up, I like video games. I think most kids like video games too.
Did you like the praying mantises? Did you like that? Is that why you put it in the book?
I don't know. I'm trying to think where the praying mantises come from. It's been a long time since I wrote that first book. The praying mantis part, I think it came from again, I wanted something that felt alien, but not overly, not overly, like a stereotypical alien, and something that was kind of easy to describe. And so praying mantis always felt like an alien kind of bug to me, and a little bit scary, and so I think that's kind of where it came from, and that's where that stuff came from in that first book. So yeah, I think the topics that I really enjoyed, and so that kids enjoy, and again, making it easy to read and fun to read and keeps you wanting to read more, I think is something that kids identify with, and even kids that don't think that they like reading, pick up the book and after the first chapter they feel like they need to read the second chapter, and then they get to the second chapter they feel like they have to keep going,
Alright, so besides the chapter in the video game series, and the Escape from the video game series, what other books have you written?
Yeah, for sure. So I've written a couple. I've written a book called Superhero for a Day. That was the second book I wrote after Trapped in a Video Game. So that one was fun to write. I've written a couple books. These ones right here, these are Layla and Nugget Mysteries. They're named after my daughter, Layla, and my dog, Nugget. So these are a little bit easier to read than the Trapped in Video Game books. They're kind of like beginner chapter books, but those are fun. So I've written those. I have a new book that's coming out that I'm really excited about. It's this one right here. It's called World's Worst Time Machine. It's a kid gets a time machine, but it is the worst time machine, and it wreaks havoc. So that was really fun to write. And then I wrote 2 books that I wrote under a different name. They're kind of a side project, and so I wanted to just try. It was a game that I was playing a lot, and I wanted to write books about it. So there's Legend of Battle Island, and then the Monster of Battle Island. So they're written under the name Matt Corver. That's actually me. And those are about Fortnite. So those are, I think, that's all the books that I've written.
I think my friends in my class would love to read those books.
Yeah.
And what are you currently working on now?
I'm working on World's Worst Time Machine 2. So that one took me a long time to write. Usually, second book in the series takes a lot longer than the first for me to write. And so I'm almost done with it. I'm writing the last 3 chapters this week, and then I got to go back and do some revisions and edits and things like that. So that's what I'm working on. After that, I'm going to write 2 more video game books. So I'll write those before the end of this year, and those will come out next year.
So what inspired you to start writing in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I liked reading as a kid. I liked books that were funny and had lots of action and adventure and things like that. So I always kind of wanted to do that when I grew up. So when it came time, when I finally decided to do it, I was going to do, write the book I always wanted to read as a kid. I sat down and I made a list of all the things that I thought about a lot, all the things I really liked. And one of the things at the top of that list was this game show. It's called Nickelodeon Arcade. And it was on in the early 90s. And I only saw it one time because I didn't have cable. But my friend down the street, Anthony Laporta, had cable. So I think it was cool. And I went to Anthony's house and he had this show on. And it was like, I don't know, they would ask kids trivia questions about video games or something like that. And that part was fine. I don't really remember that part. But I do remember at the end of the show, they go to commercial break. The team that had won is now wearing helmets, elbow pads, and knee pads, like something big is going to go down. And then these big metal doors open up, smoke pours out, the doors close, kids run through, and then a TV turns on, and those real kids are inside of a real video game from like the 1990s. And they're, they're collecting coins and they're dodging bad guys. And I remember there's like a magic carpet level or whatever. And I just thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I thought about that all the time. And, and I thought about going on that show all the time. And so when it came time to write the book, I thought, trapped in a video game would be a thing that I thought was cool as a kid. So I thought, kids today might like that as well. And
what makes you want to write for young writers specifically?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I like, again, like I like being around kids. I like talking to kids and thinking about things that I liked as a kid. So and kids' books are a lot shorter to write than adult books, which is nice for me.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I just, that it just clicks for me. So I like reading that. And I like writing for kids specifically because, I get, the thing that I like the most is I get a lot of notes from parents and teachers and kids about kids that didn't think that they liked reading. And they read my books and they kind of got hooked on it and they like it now. And so for me, that's a really rewarding thing. And that's something that keeps me going.
Do you have any advice for the young kids that want to write books?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I always tell kids to like, my biggest piece of advice is just to finish a story. A lot of people get really excited about a story and they start it and they don't finish it. But when you have a finished story, you can do the best thing, and that's publishing it. And publishing doesn't mean getting like a big book deal or getting it into like a thing that's a book. It just means giving it to someone else. And that's the best part of writing for me, is giving my work to someone else and seeing them smile, seeing them enjoy it or something like that. And so for kids that write or want to create stories, I would say just do something, make it and finish it so you can give it to someone, because that's the best feeling, to be able to give it to someone and have somebody else enjoy it.
Also, what about the Invisible Invasion? Did you want like something kind of like Pokemon or something?
Yeah. So back to Mr. Gregory. So I think Mr. Gregory, he just works for Bionasoft, and so I think in the second, I'm trying to remember how the books go, but I think in the second book, like it kind of becomes like a little bit more clear. And then the third book, like he works for them, but he doesn't know everything that they're doing. So he didn't know that they were doing bad stuff. So the bad guy in the second one, Jeffrey Delfino, I think, is like the guy in charge of buying stuff. So he's definitely the bad guy. And then there's one more bad guy even above him that you'll get to in the later books. But so I did want some real bad guys, but so that was the idea with that. And yeah, the Pokemon Go thing, I wrote the book actually right when Pokemon Go first came out.
Oh.
And there were a couple of those AR, like augmented reality kind of games, and I thought that would be a really cool idea for a very different kind of game to go into, where you could be invisible and have this whole world going on during the real world, but you're invisible to people. So to me, that was like most ideas I kind of come up with a little bit at a time. And that one just kind of came to me all at once, which was nice. It doesn't happen very often. But for me, like that video game had just came out. And so I was taking a long drive, I think. I had to go somewhere a couple hours away. And so during that, I was thinking about Pokemon Go, and I got excited about the idea, that possibility for a book. So, it was a real big fad when it came out. So I got a little bit lucky that it just didn't totally die off, that people still, are familiar with it all these years later, that they still kind of like it and kids know what it is, But yeah, that was the idea behind that.
I was just really shocked to see you. but one of my favorite authors.
Oh, thanks, Foster. That's awesome. No, that's cool. You did a really good job. That's awesome. So I hope I tell your teacher I told her to give you an A. An A plus probably would be best. And so, anyways, yeah. No, I appreciate you. Your dad reached out to me, and that was cool that you put together those questions and interviewed me. I'm really honored that you did that. That's awesome.
It's a pleasure doing business with you.
It's a pleasure doing business with you too, Foster. Great meeting you.